Hey everybody, how you doing? What's going on? Welcome to Cash Media back once again. Another week. I hope you guys had a wonderful time. I'm here because I want to discuss, what's going on with NBA, and I know I haven't been um, streaming in the past couple days, but I had to come back, hit you guys with what's been going on in case you guys haven't been updated, right? Uh, First things first, right? Support the channel. It doesn't hurt to drop a like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, that notification button, so whenever I hop on, you guys can know, when I'm going to be streaming. Because remember, I invite people to the platform in case we have any discussions or anything we want to talk about or even debate about, right? So let's get into it because I know there's some things that I want to get into. I have three things that I want to talk about. First things first is the Victor Wembanyama situation, right? So Victor Wembanyama, as we all know, is the first overall draft pick for this year's draft class. He's been highly anticipated, to going into the NBA because he is, a relatively huge prospect, man. I mean, this guy is a 7'4" center. He can score and do so many different things on the court. But that's not to say, he is relatively limited. But I'm going to get into that and I'm going to break it down. The more we go on, right? So, summer league has been going on in the background. So for those that probably just watch NBA, just watch regular season games, playoff games, whatever, right? Summer league has been somewhat interesting. We've seen some guys, we've seen some young guys really do some things. We've seen some flashes. We saw a lot of great play from a lot of big prospects, which was anticipated, coming into the draft to begin with, right? But talking about Victor Wembanyama, watching this guy play, I mean, I wasn't really shocked or surprised at anything he was doing. I mean, first off, he's 7'4", right? He's like literally huge when it comes to height. Now, when it comes to bulk, weight, size, girth, however way you want to put it, you can visually see that Victor Wembanyama is struggling in some cases, and I would actually say that's probably the weakest part of his game is his strength and probably his durability. But let's get into what's been going on and his performance as it pertains to the summer league, right? So that first game, he did not have a great game. Let's keep it stacked. Let's keep it 100. Victor Wembanyama in that first game, he was putrid. He was god awful, right? He did not have a great first game, and honestly, I think that's fair. Well, I don't think it's fair to fully assess him on that first game, on that first performance, right? I mean, it's summer league, right? And the guy just came from France. This is his first time really playing against other forms of talent that is probably just as good or if not better than him. But we're gonna pump the brakes. We're gonna pump the brakes there because that's not what I'm saying, right? Now, the second game, as you guys can see visually on the title, Victor Wembanyama scores a team high 27 points in his second NBA Summer League game, right? So in that second game, he had 27 points, 12 boards, right, and 3 blocks. Shot 9 for 14, shooting from the field. Also had had made some big shots down the road, right? So in that second game, not so much the first game, right? He demonstrated a better touch around the basket. He drew fouls, and he effectively blocked shots as he should, being a 7'4" center in league, right? So in this second game, he seemed a lot more comfortable. He seemed a lot more poised, and playing under Greg Popovich, right? You can kind of expect that. You can see the direction of how the Spurs franchise, are approaching this situation. They're trying to take their time. They understand player development. And if it's not, the Spurs, right? the Spurs franchise are one of those teams, that's going to be very, very, um, they're going to keep this close to their chest, right? I'll just put it like that, right? So going into the things that I felt like he's going to be struggling down the road, is maintaining possession against stronger opponents, and that's where he ultimately struggles, right? Pressing up his post game. The NBA, you're playing with a lot of grown men. Some of these guys, they'll put their weight on it. We know how this game is transitioning, especially with Joel Embiid, who previously won MVP, Nikola Jokic, right, who just won the NBA championship and became NBA Finals MVP at that, right? So, but this is to be expected. I mean, Victor Wembanyama is a 19-year-old player, right? So it's going to take time. Usually players, when they just get into the league, they're skinny as hell, right? We all remember how Kevin Durant looked once he entered the league. I mean, this guy was a stick, right? He was a reaper, right? This man was no shit. He was Jack from the Halloween movie. Man, this man was stick figures. Right now, Victor Wembanyama is a taller player, and we can understand, his lanky build and his frame. But with due time, he's probably going to build up a little bit more muscle, build up a more athletic frame. So I wouldn't press on that issue for too long. But it is something that we do have to notice as things start to elevate here, right? Now, in that second game, part of the thing that I do want to bring up here is, how he was scoring when he was able to capitalize, on his moment. Now, in the second quarter of the second game, where he scored those 27 points, he had 9 points in the second quarter and 10 points. He had a 10-point run in the fourth quarter, knocking down 2 3-pointers, right? So Victor Wembanyama, we finally got to see, a stretch where he started to, show his poise, show his skills, show us what he could do. And honestly, it was great to see. It was fun to watch. It was honestly astonishing to see, such a tall, lengthy guy, a guy with so much height, just being so much longer than everybody else, but almost being able to do relatively the similar things that some of these other players can do at his height, at his frame. Right now, I'm not going to say I'm not even probably going to say that he was the best player in the summer league, because for me to say that, I feel like that would be factually wrong, because we've seen other players. Scoot Henderson, he had a great game. He had a great couple games. The way he attacks the basket, his competitiveness, the way I look at it is Scoot Henderson has that it factor. He has that go and get it factor, right? So, with Victor Wembanyama, it's going to be very, very crucial in how he develops here moving forward, right? Now, even though he made some threes, we know he can shoot some threes. That's not to say that, he isn't, I would say this. He 100% needs to improve on his three-point shooting, if he's going to be taking these sort of shots, right? Because even in the French league, when we saw all those highlights of Victor Wembanyama shooting threes, shooting those one-legged threes, people were astonished and people were amazed at how he was doing it, what he was doing. You got to look back. You got to take a step back, fully assess the entire situation. Understand that Victor Wembanyama isn't exactly the best three-point shooter, on the court. But it's the fact that he's a 7'4" center that at least can shoot it, right? So he can develop more into a stretch big, something, somewhere down the lines as a Kevin Durant. But I think the whole thing at fault here is the fact that since he's a 7'4" center, you know, I think that's going to be almost relatively controversial on whether you would want to have him at the 4 or the 5 spot. Now, obviously, because of his height, you would more than likely have him at the 5 spot. But then that's why I brought up, that information about him trying to, build up weight in a bigger frame, so he can, allow, put a little bit more pressure, man. Because that 5 spot, man, that center position, regardless of what you're doing, you're going to be pounding down there, right? You're going to be pounding down there. So last year, or at least the last season that Victor Wembanyama was in the French Pro League, he shot 27% from 3, right? So that is not great. You would at least want to see him shoot, in about maybe the 34 to 36% from 3. But that's like, decent, moderate, or in some cases really good, depending on your value. If he's not taking a lot of threes, you don't want to be shooting 27%. We did notice some air balls on his 3-pointers here and there, but that's just going to come with his rhythm and his shooting form. So if he can get better with that, then that would be insane, right? So my thing about it is, with Victor Wembanyama, I mean, you kind of heard my full assessment on how I look at it, and the direction and how this could possibly go. But I see him as a really great player. He has huge potential in this league, and if there's anybody I want coaching Victor Wembanyama, it is going to be Greg Popovich, right? So looking at the title, understanding this, because I do want to acknowledge that fact and bring this up, because Kenny the Jet Smith, who was broadcasting this game, with Victor Wembanyama, he made a very bold statement and said that Victor Wembanyama is going to win NBA MVP in 5 years, right? So I don't know how I feel about that. I honestly don't know how I feel about that. But honestly, I mean, it's a prediction. It's a guess. Who's to say from our position, if we're not at the position of Kenny Smith, who's to say he's wrong at this point? We don't know. It's just a prediction. He could still be wrong. But going in 5 years, if he has the player development that we anticipate, there is no doubt about it that he could win NBA MVP. Right now, going into his rookie season, how can we project how he's going to play moving forward? How is he going to adjust during the regular season? So I'll stop at this. I'll leave it at this. I'm gonna just start with the rookie of the year. I think NBA MVP is jumping so many steps. There's so much that he would have to do in between that to even be considered for NBA MVP, because Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, and a lot of these young guys, they're not going anywhere or at least for the time being, right? They're not going to be going anywhere for a long time, right? So I'm gonna just start at rookie of the year, right? I think Victor Wembanyama can definitely win rookie of the year. There's no doubt about it. And the way I see it is that Victor Wembanyama can easily average probably about maybe 14, 15, 16 points, probably even more than that. Probably about like maybe 11, 12 rebounds. I think that might be anticipating a little bit too high. But he's 7'4". I could see maybe 8, 9 rebounds. But as a 7'4" center, rebounds is a very, very big thing, especially when it comes down to tight games. Right now, assists. Honestly, I have no idea what his assist is going to be looking like. He could, looking at his vision, watching these games, watching the last game, and looking at how he spreads the ball, how he gets the ball to certain teammates and how he spreads the floor. I think he has a decent enough playmaking ability. So I think it's fair to say he can probably have like 3, 4, maybe even 5 assists a game, and especially with the way the big man spot has adjusted to today's games, to today's play style, via Nikola Jokic, Giannis, and even to some level of extent, Joel Embiid. The other two guys, the first two guys, Giannis and Jokic, are have above average playmaking ability as a big man. Nikola Jokic, in particular, right? I mean, he damn near averaged a triple double in the regular season and averaged a triple double in the regular season, right? So Victor Wembanyama, if he's going to want to elevate his game and be a part of the NBA award or NBA MVP conversation, right? Like Kenny the Jet Smith said, he would definitely have to contribute in that factor because it would only make the team better. But like I said, I'm just starting out at the Rookie of the Year award. So that's how I see it. He can definitely win Rookie of the Year. He can win NBA MVP. I didn't say that. Kenny the Jet Smith did, but we got to pump the brakes there, right? Let's give it like maybe 2-3 seasons, and I think that's when we can have a legitimate conversation about Victor Wembanyama winning MVP, right? So that's that. At least that's my my take on Victor Wembanyama after this whole summer league debacle, because he's done for the summer league, right? It already came out that they're shutting him down for the rest of the summer league. I think they've seen whatever they needed to see from him, try to just get his feet wet, play with other prospects, play with high-level prospects such as Scoot, all the other guys. I'm not going to go down a whole list, right? So, Spurs, they don't care about making the league, the fans, and all this stuff happen. They're worried about Victor Wembanyama's development. Can he become the player that he is projected to be, right? And that is way more important than selling tickets, right? That's way more important than winning awards, right? Because it doesn't matter if this guy plays like 60, 70 games and then he tears some shit, right, on that 70th game, and then guess what? He can't even play the next season, right? Or, they're trying to rush him out there, put him up against high level competitors, right, at his position, and then people are going to jump the gun and start making accusations and saying, all right, this guy's a bust because he can't play with Nikola Jokic, right? Which is crazy because he's a rookie. He's a 19-year-old guy, right? So the Spurs managed to lock down Greg Popovich, also giving him a contract extension. Now, some people may beg to differ. Some people may look at this a little bit differently and say that, Greg Popovich, why did he get a contract extension? He had a couple losing seasons before drafting Wembanyama. But with the Spurs, if you followed the organization quite some time ago, right? Kawhi Leonard, right? There was a situation there, and the Spurs and Kawhi just got fed up, right? So it became like this whole big divorce, and then we already know, what happened after that, right? So the Spurs never really got their superstar that they were looking for during, in the time being, right? So that's the reason why, the Spurs were in the position to even draft Wembanyama in the first place. But that's not to say the Spurs haven't acquired or at least drafted, good players. The thing about it is, though, in this NBA, in this league, you have to have that superstar level talent. You have to have that name cachet. You need to have that guy on your roster that's going to sell seats and also do the dirty work, right? Hold the franchise on their back, right? So Victor Wembanyama definitely has the personality, the skill set, and hopefully it can translate into the NBA, right? So that's that, man. At least that's my take on the whole Wembanyama situation, right? So moving on to another situation that I do want to cover and talk about. So I got three things that I do want to talk about today. Is the Zion situation. The Zion situation, right? So the Zion situation is very, very very, very funny, man. Well, I wouldn't say that. I don't think that's fair to kind of highlight that and say it's funny, because I don't think anything going on with Zion is particularly funny. But here and there, we can have that conversation about, like, what's been going on with Zion. But the thing about it is, he had an interview. He was on Gilbert Arenas' podcast. This is a live stream, so I'm gonna bring up the video probably in a later recording, so it'll be in there so you guys can have it. But I just want to have my take in there first. But yeah, so basically, he spoke out about the situation, about his weight, not the baby mom situation. He spoke about his weight, right? And he said since his youth, it's always been difficult, to maintain his diet. And especially now, since he has an abundance of cash, it's even harder, right? But then he also elaborates on the fact that there was a sense of invincibility on his part, right? He felt like with youth comes with invincibility, right? Now, we all know that's not the case, but we all know when you're young, you feel like we can do anything, we can take on anything. And honestly, I feel as if Zion Williamson should feel that way, right? He should think that way. He should approach it that way. But obviously, the mistake on his part, right, is staying in good health, right? We all know, it's especially when you're a star, it's extremely, extremely important as a superstar level talent like Zion, to stay in shape, and keep your body, healthy as can be, right? Last season, right, he only played 29 games, right? And then during the final, with 45 games left in the season, when he was projected to come back, he re-aggravated a hamstring injury, right? And if you guys followed along the season last year with the New Orleans Pelicans are a good team. Like, I can say that very confidently, to say that this team is really, really good. Like, I can see it, and I hope a lot of you can see how good this team is. Zion Williamson is literally the missing piece for this team, right? He in Brandon Ingram, right? Brandon Ingram is obviously, a star in this league, and it's almost the same situation, with Zion and Brandon Ingram, right? But the only thing is, Zion, with the weight issue, I'd rather, Brandon Ingram doesn't go up to 280 pounds, man. Brandon Ingram ain't stepping on no scale weighing almost 300 pounds, right? Brandon Ingram doesn't have a clause in his contract that has a weight clause. Brandon Ingram does not have a weight clause in his contract. Zion Williamson does. Now, this isn't a situation where I feel we need to team up on Zion, call him a fat fuck or Teletubby, or how a Barney, however way you want to call him, right? But we're all young. We've been at that point where we feel like we can eat anything. Come on now, he's in New Orleans, man. He's eating plenty of stuff. A side note, we know what boys eating on the side. But going back to basketball, though, and I think he said the right things. I think he said the things that that he felt was necessary. I honestly applaud him for coming out and actually having an interview, because there was always skepticism about, his camaraderie with his teammates, right? But it's good to know that he at least has that mindset, right? That he wants to get healthy, he wants to stay in shape, and ultimately, he wants to, he wants to play basketball, right? He wants to play basketball. That's what matters, right? He's not Ben Simmons. He's not Ben Simmons, bro. He wants to play. Zion Williamson wants to play basketball, right? So, and I think that's at least his head, his head is there for him to say, hey, I want to be on the court. I want to compete. I want to get my team better. And I want to be a star, right? Or at least that's that last part was me saying that, right? But you just gotta stay in shape, man. That's all it is. I mean, we've seen what's happening with LeBron. We see how LeBron has been able to go, move through his career, right? With LeBron being able to have such a long career, a big part of that is because, he kept himself in shape, right? And you can even look at the situation with Kevin Durant, right? Kevin Durant, I have no doubt about it that, he keeps himself in shape, or at least, he's probably not putting BS into his body, but you can see that with his skinny frame, how fragile he is. I mean, last season when he was on the Suns, this man was walking to the bench and broke his ankle. Well, that's not what actually happened, right? He was going up for a layup and then fell down and then twisted his ankle, and then he was out for a couple of days, right? He was out for like 2 weeks, right? So that's not true that he was like walking to his bench and then like tore ACL. That's just me cracking jokes, right? But in a season, in an NBA season, we understand that an NBA season is very taxing. You're going through a lot of wear and tear when you're playing in the NBA. I mean, god damn, you're playing 82 games in a season, right? And then you add on the playoffs, which is more competitive, more physical, more mental, right? So times like this, you are going to have to stay healthy, right? By the time you get to the playoffs, you have to be in shape. You have to be the healthiest you have been ever once you reach the playoffs. And Zion Williamson has the ability and the capability of doing both, right? He already has the ability. He just has to be capable of keeping himself in shape, right? I mean, we're talking about a guy who averaged 26 points per game off of over 60% shooting from the field. No player has ever done that before, right? I want to make that very, very clear. No player has done that before over a long period amount of time in an NBA season. No player has averaged that in an NBA season, right? So it's gonna be exciting to see how he comes into his own moving forward. But there's no doubt about it that Zion Williamson is going to be able to get himself in shape. I mean, he has a long career ahead of him. And I would like to see, how this New Orleans team is going to look, with a full squad, with a full team. I want to see it. I want to see how this team looks with a fully capable roster, right? And I think everybody here wants to see that. Everybody wants to see that, right? So that's that. I'm not going to take too long on this. Hey, if you guys are tuning in, though, like the video, man. Subscribe. Hit that bell, that notification button, so you guys can show your support. And also, I do debate sessions, debate platforms. Now I'm just putting out news and just talking about what's going on, right? So moving on to my last subject here is, right, Damian Lillard, right? It's been going on. It's been going down. We've heard about it numerous times. and we don't know how things are going to turn out moving forward, right? Oh man, hopefully I didn't have no volume on. All right, so yes, sorry about that. So this whole situation with Damian Lillard, right? So you see the headline, right? The GM, Joe Cronin, says he failed Damian Lillard and will take time, right, to find the best return. So if you guys aren't aware or completely aware of the situation, Damian Lillard requested a trade from the Trailblazers, right? Damian Lillard has been with the Trailblazers for 11 seasons, won Rookie of the Year, and then on January 1st, he requested a trade because he didn't feel as if like the Trailblazers were doing enough for them to be a finals contending team, right? And I knew it. So I know a lot of you guys knew it, right? But the thing about it is, I mean, what makes this situation almost similar to what happened with Anthony Davis is that Damian Lillard made it specifically known that he only wants to go to Miami Heat. He only wants to go to the Miami Heat. And I can't blame him, right? I mean, the Miami Heat are a competitive team. They have the guys that he would want to play with. He has a relationship with Bam Adebayo. I think he would work very well with Jimmy Butler. That would be a transcending talent that will be coming to Miami Heat. And, it would be hard to get a bet. It would be hard to bet against the Miami Heat, in the playoffs, given the matchup, right? But because of the fact that Damian Lillard made it known that he only wants to go, to the Miami Heat, it makes a trade for him, ultimately difficult, if you're not Miami, right? And now we do understand that there are other teams that do want to trade, that do want to play the Damian Lillard sweepstakes. And some of those teams, right, have been, what have I got? Teams right here. I'm just looking for it. Come on now. I just had it. Okay, I'm sorry about that. All right, so Heat, Knicks, Sixers, and Clippers, right? So those are the teams. Those are the four possible trades that we could be looking at here moving forward when it comes to Damian Lillard, right? So, and I think if he were to go to any of those teams, I think it would be a great move for him. Any of those teams would be viable. Any of those teams that he would go to would make them an automatic finals contending team, right? But if I had to put the teams at the top, obviously Heat would be one of them. Clippers would be one of them, right? And then Sixers would be one of them. But the only thing about it is we know for a fact that Trailblazers want something good or even great in return. I mean, think about it. You're giving up Damian Lillard. Think about what Anthony Davis, or think about what the Lakers had to give up for Anthony Davis. All those draft picks, all those players, right? The Lakers to this day are still feeling the trade for Anthony Davis. But at the end of the day, hey man, they got a title, right? So they, in a way, they made up for it, right? But if you're a team that's trading for Damian Lillard, you obviously want him to play alongside your star players. But if you're trading for somebody like Damian Lillard, you're going to have to give up one of your star players, right? The reason why this whole situation with Miami Heat and Portland Trailblazers hasn't gone, happened as early as it could, or as early as it should, or as early as predicted, is because the Portland Trailblazers are not 100% on Tyler Hero. Now, I can understand that at face value. I can understand it, but in the long run, is it worth it for Portland to do that? Not really, right? You would need a lot more. You would need a lot more in that trade for you to feel like you're getting a good enough deal, right? And then Tyler Hero is good. He was sixth man of the year, but he's not Damian Lillard. You get what I'm saying now? So, and I don't think that's really hard to understand, right? But the thing about it is that even the GM of the Portland Trailblazers said that this could take months, right? And I'm gonna quote here. I'm gonna quote him, right? We're going to do what's best for our team. We're going to see how this lands, and if it takes months, it takes months, right? Cronin on Monday admitted he failed Lillard, but added he wished he was given more time to execute trades. I don't feel that I did everything I could because I didn't get done what I needed to get done, Cronin said. In that sense, I do feel like I failed Dame. Our goal was to win now as quickly as possible. If he didn't feel that way, it was a failure on my end. Dame is obviously a very important person and player to us. What the rest of his career looks like matters to us, and we care about that, Cronin said. At the same time, we have to do what's best for us. We've got to find the right deal and find the right makeup of the team we are going to build forward with. You hope you find the perfect situation where that lines up and he goes to a place he wants and you can get the best return possible. It's complicated and usually doesn't work out just like that. It's possible, but there's a lot of work involved, right? So to say that there's going to be a trade before the NBA season starts, if we go off these headlines, it wouldn't be that I wouldn't be confident to say that the trade would happen before the NBA season or when the NBA season starts or before the NBA season starts. Sorry, I had it right the first time. So I could definitely see this as an NBA trade deadline deal. Maybe Tyler Hero is going to have to up his stock and show his worth, prove his worth. That can help the Miami Heat. I don't think it will help so much the Portland Trailblazers because I feel like there's still a limit on what Tyler Hero can ultimately accomplish compared to what Damian Lillard has been able to do, on the court, right? And Damian Lillard is an all NBA first team player. Tyler Hero at best, right, could be a third team all NBA player. Now that's not to say he can improve his game, but I just want to make this known. And Tyler Hero isn't the only thing on the package. I think it was Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, and then alongside that was a couple first round picks also, right? But it's at the end of the day, you're throwing all those other players to make that trade, a lot more convincing, right? But ultimately, Tyler Hero is like the main part of the trade, right? Because the way how I look at it, the team that gets the best player wins the trade. I feel like that usually works out. That's usually how it works out, right? So this more and more likely is gonna seem like a trade that's gonna happen, before the trade deadline. Damian Lillard is gonna do what he usually does. He's gonna ball. He's gonna make those half-court shots. We're gonna see it. So it's really just a matter of what team is going to give the best offer to Portland. And then would Damian Lillard be okay with it? Right? So in due time, we're going to see how this goes down. We're going to see what team Damian Lillard goes to. And I'm not going to lie, if he goes to any other team, it would be very exciting to see how Damian Lillard's career goes moving forward, right? So thank you guys for tuning in. I'm glad to have another episode of Cash Media, man. Once again, like the video, show support, subscribe. It doesn't hurt to do any of that, man. I'm not even asking for donations. I'm just putting out information because I know I've been inconsistent, but so that's why I just want to be able to just post whenever I can, and then hopefully I can get my schedule down pat so I can be more consistent with trying to cover some things because football season coming up, man. And I know I have a lot of things that I want to talk about, a lot of things I want to cover. So I'm trying to keep it relatively short and sweet so I can just give you guys the information that you guys so desire, right? So thank you guys once again for tuning in. I appreciate you guys tapping in. And hey, man, have a great day. Have a great Tuesday. If it's Tuesday for you guys, or it is Tuesday. I don't know why I even said that. But just want you guys to have a great day. Thank you for watching the video. And this is Cash Media. Peace.